GTA Online. The game where you grind in order to buy things, which let you grind easier to buy more things in order to grind. And while that's how it works today, back in 2013, the amount of things that you could actually own was pretty limited. There were no businesses, only one apartment, and only about 4 or 5 military vehicles that you could own. In fact, the pool of items was so small that if you wanted to own everything in GTA Online at launch, it would have only cost you a total of about $17.5 million, which is pretty reasonable. But now, in 2026, $17 million wouldn't even be enough to get you everything in the latest update. And there's been over 40 of them. That's when I had the thought, how much would it cost to own everything in GTA Online today? Every business, property, vehicle, weapon, and even every single piece of clothing. I mean everything. Well, after spending weeks crunching the numbers to find out, I can now share the ridiculous number that this would actually cost, and I can guarantee that this number is more than you might think. Now, there are 8 different categories to max out in order to own everything. Those being businesses, properties, personal vehicles, Pegasus vehicles, masks, clothing, tattoos, and weapons. Owning each and every one of the items in these categories is how you'd own everything in GTA Online. And I'm not kidding when I say that there are well over 15 to 20,000 different items that we need to buy. But keep in mind that this is just owning everything, not maximizing them. So for example, we won't be using the amount it costs to upgrade every single business, just owning the base business as is. We will be getting some upgrades to get the maximum value of another category, but we will talk about that when we get there. Oh, and I'm also not including anything from GTA Plus either, because just why? But since we were talking about businesses before, let's start there. In GTA Online currently, there are 26 different businesses with locations that need purchasing. Stuff like the CEO office and motorcycle club that require you to also own the separate locations for each part of the business will also be included, no matter how useless they might be.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
And just because I wasn't sure which category to include them in, I've also added the 11 special vehicles and properties in here as well. These include things like the yacht, the new mansions, casino penthouse, the 50-car garage, and vehicles like the MOC, Terabyte, Kosatka, and Avenger. The penthouse, mansions, and garage don't actually count towards the 10 properties you're allowed to own, so there's a little fun fact for you. And those vehicles are just a part of the services tab in the interaction menu and stored in the sky for all I know, so I figured it best to include them here. So, after taking the highest value property for each of these 37 business locations and vehicles, we have already spent a whopping total of $128,929,700. Now, this number is partially inflated by the fact that we essentially spent over $35 million on 3 mansions that are almost the exact same, but we did this for good reason. The other reason this number is slightly higher than it should be is because I said we wouldn't be getting all of the upgrades for these businesses, and I wasn't lying. However, there are a few upgrades we need in order to max out a certain category. And that's, of course, the garage space for our personal vehicles. Before we calculate the cost of our personal vehicles, I'm going to quickly get the properties category out of the way so we have the space for these cars. Since, like I said, the mansions, 50-car garage, and penthouse don't count towards this, I just needed to find the 10 most expensive high-end properties, each with 10-car garages, in order to make it work. And by using these 10 properties, the value comes to a total of $7.835 million, which, spoiler alert, is actually the least expensive category to max out on this list. And just so no one calls me out in the comments, each of these high-end garages can also hold 3 bikes in them as well, so I'm going to add the value of 30 BMX bikes for a total of $24,000. So to figure out how many spaces we have to store personal vehicles, we just need to add up all of the spaces from our properties, businesses, and various vehicles like the MOC. And after adding them all up, we are left with a total of 429 slots for personal vehicles. Or at least you'd think. You see, the facility says that it can hold 12 vehicles, however, only 7 of those are actually reserved for personal cars, and the rest are dedicated spots for special vehicles only. So now we need to determine how many dedicated slots there are in these businesses for certain vehicles and subtract it from the total number. Now, I bet you all thought you were going to get me on this, but I checked everything, okay? You guys do not understand how long this video took. So now the tally looks like this. Here you can see every dedicated slot and a vehicle that I have put into it. Now, admittedly, you can probably tell that I realized this at the end of my research and was so fed up looking at numbers that I just saw the 10 motorcycle spots and said, screw it, throw 10 oppressors in there. Same with the Phantom Wedge, just toss 8 of those in the warehouse. I don't care at this point. There are 31 dedicated slots if you include the motorcycle club. The vehicles stored in the MC and Kosatka are technically considered personal vehicles, but since there are restrictions to the ones you can store, we will just call them dedicated spots for the simplicity of this video, which leaves personal vehicle slots now at only 398. And you might ask how I did this. And yes, it's exactly how you think. I went and added up the values of 398 individual vehicles in the game one by one, from most expensive again with the Oppressor to the least expensive at the Benefactor Shafter LWB. I used non-trade up or discounted prices in order to find the most accurate number for the personal vehicles. And so, the total value of owning 398 different cars plus the 31 dedicated vehicles I listed earlier comes to an insane total of $691,547,705, equating to easily the most expensive category to own everything in GTA Online. And you will spend that much on almost 400 cars just to only drive 5 of them daily. Welcome to GTA Online. Now, mind you, this number doesn't even include one singular upgrade on your cars. The amount of money that it would cost to upgrade all of these vehicles is a number that would make even Strauss Zelnick foam at the mouth with how much this would cost in shark cards. And we aren't even close to finishing yet, because now we need to move into another massive category: the Pegasus, Hangar, and Special Vehicles. You can own every single Pegasus vehicle in the game. There's no cap on them since, once again, they are just seemingly stored in your back pocket with the rest of your weapons. But since we can own every single Pegasus vehicle with no restriction, this actually makes it very easy for us to calculate the total cost. And since we didn't use any trade-in or discounted values for those vehicles earlier, we won't use any for these either. Which means the total cost of owning every single Pegasus vehicle right now sits at around $100,155,096. We've already bought a hangar and the Mackenzie airfield, a part of the businesses earlier, so we can fill these with the other 27 aircrafts that are hangar specific. The price of these aircrafts will add another $91,036,600. And after consulting my on-call GTA Online expert, Buck, he informed me that I should also add the summon-only vehicles as well, like the RC tank, the Avenger thruster, and the Kraken Avisa, for a combined total on special vehicles at $195,541,696. The weapons category is also super easy to answer since you can own all of them at once, and since there haven't been too many released since launch, it was easy enough to find out. GTABase.com has all 105 weapons listed here along with their price, and some weapons like the Stone Hatchet and Golf Club can only be acquired through either finding them or completing a quick quest, and that's being accounted for in this database. So by adding up all of the weapons that we can actually purchase, the total cost of owning every weapon in the game is actually only $8,708,395. But now is admittedly when we get into the territory of items that I knew would ruin my enjoyment for ever trying to answer this god-awful question: the clothing, masks, and tattoos. There are quite literally thousands and even tens of thousands of individual items for these categories, specifically the clothing. I thought that the tattoos would at least be manageable to figure out on my own, but I had forgotten just how many of them have been added through DLCs and events in the past. I mean, even for just the masks, there are 21 different categories of masks, each with anywhere between 50 and 120 individual items in each of the categories. And yes, I did start sitting there with a calculator adding up every single item to find the amount. But since I realized I wanted to upload another video before GTA 6 came out, I knew this method probably wasn't going to work for my sanity. Luckily, after digging around online, I was able to find a database for every mask and tattoo on the GTA wiki. And look, I don't know if this list is 100% up to date or not, but it's gotta be close enough to get a value for this video. So once again, after going through every mask and tattoo and adding the total together, the cost of owning every one of these items is around $22,260,165 for all the masks and roughly $9,991,855 for every tattoo. And finally, we end with the hardest task for this entire video. I am not lying when I say that between all three clothing stores and places like the LS Car Meet, Casino, and Dr. Dre's studio, there are legit over 10,000 pieces of clothing. And if you thought for 1 second that I was going to sit there with my calculator again and try to add them all up, you gotta be out of your mind. Because I tried that at first, it was taking way too long. And that's when I came across this absolute legend, Walmart Master. Walmart Master claimed that he had owned every piece of clothing in the game, but it is important to note that this post was made over 2 years ago. So is it 100% accurate? No. But does this save me from staring at numbers and needing eye surgery once again? Yes. So this is what I went with. But judging from his post, we need to do a little bit of calculating. This stat on money spent on style and entertainment factors in not only clothing, but also tattoos, masks, and Pavel's expenses for the Cayo Perico heist. Now, he says that he only bought a few tattoos and didn't run the Cayo heist that much, and estimated that those only equated for about 5 to 10 million of the total. So we will meet in the middle and subtract about 7.5 million. But we also need to subtract the cost for all of the masks that he said he bought as well. Luckily, we know that value already, and it is just over 22 million, so we will subtract this as well. Which means, as a very rough estimation, all of the clothing in GTA Online should cost us somewhere around $114,422,825. Now, for the moment we've all been waiting for. I have went and gathered every single value for owning every single item in the entire game that I can think of, and adding up every single category together leaves us with a staggering total of $1,179,252,841. But now, the real question that I, and most importantly Rockstar, would like to know is how much would this cost if you use shark cards to do it? The simple answer, $11,800 US. Yeah, no wonder this shit made over $500 million a year since launch. Jesus Christ. Now, is there a chance that I could have missed something? Absolutely. Will some people be mad that I didn't include all of the upgrades for the businesses? 100%. But at least when it comes to owning everything in GTA Online, I do think that this is a very accurate representation of that number. And of course, if you do notice something that I might have missed, feel free to leave it down below. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and consider becoming a member so you can support me in answering questions that no one even asked. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.